Joining me now is Einar Tangen. He's a political and economic affairs commentator. I know that this is not a new drill. COVID's impacted the GAOKAO now since it's been around for a couple of years, as that story pointed out. This is year 3. But how is the pandemic impacting things this time around?
Well, Mike, I mean, a lot of it is just about the anxiety. You know, when you say just under 12 million students, you extrapolate parents, grandparents, teachers, near relatives. You're talking about 100 million people who are, their hopes and dreams are being put on these exams. So right now, it's just, people are unsure what's going to happen, obviously for the results. But even above that, you're having big changes in the, in the economic environment, things that you didn't need to know a few years ago, you now need to. I mean, quantum theory, things like this. And it's not that so much they're testing, it's just that there's an ongoing sense of change. And given the unemployment rates right now, there is some, concern about what's going to happen after they graduate.
Yeah, when you think about it, just putting all of that together, there's always so much at stake each year. This year, even more so. What about security and cheating concerns? Because that always seems to be something that we kind of focus on every year around this time.
Yeah, I think it's extremely hard, especially given COVID. You have to have your phone, your test, your fingerprint. Yeah, it's not a real big concern. I mean, if you go back a number of years ago, there were attempts by people to send somebody else to take the exam for their student, but that really has gone away. You don't really hear anything about that. I mean, no system is fair, Mike. But the issue is, are you trying to make it more fair as you go along?
The GAOKAO, we know, can induce so much pressure on these kids, and the parents also concerned. We heard that listening to these psychologists, the parents trying to change their diets and all this sort of thing. Add to that COVID. How are the students coping? I mean, anecdotally, what are you hearing from your friends?
Well, I have a number of friends with, students who are going through this right now. I mean, it's really no different than any other time. The only major thing is this, for the last 3 years, you've been studying at home. But quite frankly, they're used to that. I mean, these kids, they go to school and then they would come home. There's a tremendous amount of homework and cramming that goes into preparing for these exams. And that's really one of the major issues that they're looking at. How do you get more critical thinking into the system, identify those who can do it as opposed to those who have good memories, who can, kind of remember everything that they need to do well on these tests. So it's a constant, ever-changing challenge, not only for China, but for every country in the world.
One thing that is different and it's rather interesting is China's really started placing more emphasis on vocational training, other alternatives. Has that eased some of the GAOKAO pressure at all?
Oh, actually, in 2019, they kind of opened up vocational schools so that they can take the GAOKAO. So actually, there's more who are attempting it. And there is some griping about how, the enforcement is. If you're the number of universities is about 1,000. They're split into 4 different areas. I mean, 4 different levels, with Tsinghua, Beida obviously at the top. And there's questions in different provinces because if you took everybody who scored the same, they would not necessarily get into the same universities, and I mean across provinces and things like this. And they're attempting to address these on an ongoing basis. And that's what a lot of these kind of educational reforms in 2019 were aimed at. Obviously, a lot of those were put on hold as they kind of adjusted to this COVID situation. But you can, going forward, the Chinese government is very concerned about preparing the future workforce, making sure that it's ready for the future challenges. And I think this is something that all nations should be paying attention to. The things that you were good enough to know 20 years ago, it's not going to be the same 10 years from now.
No, the world just keeps on changing. That is very true. Einar, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much.